Madam President,
Senator from South Carolina.
I ask unanimous consent to terminate the quorum call.
We are not in a quorum call.
I'll also ask unanimous consent to be able to enter into a colloquy with my good friend, Senator Daines from Montana.
Without objection.
He will be on the way. So here's the state of play, folks. If you're at home and you're a nurse or you're a doctor and you're running out of supplies, there's a lot of money in this bill that will help you. We just need to pass the damn bill. What's going on here? Endless negotiations. Mr. President, in case you're watching, tell Steven Mnuchin to come back to the White House and end negotiations. I'm all for negotiating. I try to make deals. I understand the give and take of life and the give and take of politics. But I've been called by two good friends on the Democratic side in the last 5 or 6 hours wanting more money. End the negotiations. This bill is $2 trillion. There's a ton of money in this bill for people who need it. But what we're doing now is every special interest group in town is trying to get a little bit more. Nickeling and diming at a time when people are dying, literally dying. Businesses are having to make a decision. Do I send my employees on unemployment, or do I hope the Congress can act so that I can keep them on the payroll? I tried to do my part in terms of bipartisanship, but this is ridiculous. Steven Mnuchin has done a good job. I appreciate his efforts to negotiate a bill that will help America. Senator McConnell says we're on the 2-yard line. I believe it. The problem is that there's 20 people playing defense, and we need to take some people off the field. What bothers me is at this late hour, I'm still getting calls from people wanting more money. This is not the last bill we will do, but this is the last chance we have to save some lives in real time. So I am encouraging the President, begging the President to end negotiations now. Write what we have done and let's vote. And if it's not perfect, we'll try to fix it later, but it is damn good. There's money in here to help people in small business who've had to close because they've got no customers. Maybe we can change the containment policies, but it needs to be based on science. States now are sheltering in place. Anything the President does to try to open up the economy, count me in if it's based on sound science. It needs to be conditions-based. I want to leave Afghanistan like everybody else, but it's got to be conditions-based. So I think we're a long way from beating this disease. I want to bomb it, I want to starve it, and I want to kill it. But right now, I want to get money, paychecks, up and running that have been shut down, no fault of your own. So if you own a bar or restaurant in Arizona or South Carolina, if we can pass this bill, you can go to a bank, a credit union, and you can borrow money that we will forgive. That won't be a loan, it'll be a grant. For your employees, up to $80,000 per employee. You can borrow money, which will become a grant, to pay the rent. We just need to pass the bill. If you're on unemployment in South Carolina, the most you can get is $326 a week. We add $600 to that if we can pass this bill. To the hospitals on the front line, there's a ton of money to help you with supply shortages on the medical side. To the nurses and doctors, there's money there for you. Elective surgery has been banned in some states. That loss of revenue. We need to help hospitals who are losing revenue. It's all in the bill. If you have student loan debt, we defer all payments. I think to October, can't remember, it's in there. That's good for you. It takes one rock out of your sack that you got to carry. It relieves your burden. Pass the damn bill. Stop negotiating. Enough is enough. This has been going on for 2 days. Like everybody else in the country, I have lost my patience with the political process. We're being nickeled and dimed now. The big stuff we've got pretty well right. And if it's not perfect, we can fix it later, but we need to vote tonight. And the reason I'm on the floor is because I've been called by 2 Democratic colleagues in the last 5 or 6 hours wanting more money. The store is closed. Mr. President, end negotiations. Require us to vote. Draft the bill. Do it tonight. There's $10 billion in this bill, a $2 trillion bill that may do more good than any $10 billion in the bill in terms of defeating the coronavirus. Everybody says we're at war. Senator Daines, do you agree we're at war with this virus?
We're at war.
Okay, how do you win a war? I want to starve the virus, starve the enemy. If we will practice good containment policy and stop going to the beaches and interacting with each other in an irresponsible way, we'll starve the virus because it needs human transmission to survive. So containment policies, well practiced, will starve the virus. Therapies bomb the virus. The anti-malaria drugs, I hope they work, but therapies are in the pipeline that can take the virus from a 10 to a 1 or 2 so it's not so fatal. Bombing the virus is therapeutic drugs that lessen the mortality rates. Killing it is a vaccine or an antibody that will get to the underlying problem. Senator Daines has been a one-man band to try to accelerate the ability to produce a virus that is the nuclear bomb to kill this damn thing. So we have $10 billion in this bill, thanks to Senator Daines, that will tell the drug companies who are in the business of creating vaccines and antibodies, do your trials, but if there's any promise, start production, and we will cover you. If it's a dry hole, we'll pay the cost, but if we strike oil, we'll all benefit. That $10 billion is going to allow drug companies who are in the virus destruction business, creating vaccines and antibodies, money to start production of anything that is promising, a dual system. Here's when we turn the corner, when infections go down, not up, when therapies begin to degrade the virus, and when a vaccine is on the horizon. That's when we've turned the corner. The money in this bill will accelerate turning the corner. So I want to thank Senator Daines and my good friend from South Dakota presiding, who's been a governor who understands give and take, getting to yes. Nobody does a better job of getting to yes than our presiding officer. Both of you come from the part of the world, the big sky country, and where you have to live off the land, where neighbor helps neighbor. Well, we need that attitude in this body. The store needs to close. Mr. President, end negotiations. Write the bill and let's vote. And the reason we need to vote is because people are suffering and literally dying. Senator Daines, can you tell me what it's like in Montana right now?
Senator from Montana. Senator Graham, thank you for joining me here tonight. I wish the C-SPAN camera for a moment could pan this chamber. It is empty. There are 3 senators in this chamber right now. Senator Rounds is the presiding officer from South Dakota. He has to be here because he's the presiding officer. Senator Graham is here from South Carolina, and I'm here. Senator Graham, this chamber is empty tonight. We should be here at this moment voting. Our phones are ringing off the hook. 23 hours ago, in fact, I was presiding, and we were told that we were at the 1-yard line. The minority leader came down here and said, we're at the 1-yard line. We're going to have discussions all night.
Would you yield for a question?
I will, Senator
Have
Graham.
you gotten phone calls from Democratic colleagues wanting more money?
I have.
That makes it appear to me that negotiations are not on the 1-yard line.
So we're at the 1-yard line. We were told last night negotiations would go all night. Everybody here said it's got to be a good bipartisan bill. But what we have right now is we have a situation, we've got an economic emergency on our hands. This is like somebody has been seriously injured, and they've called the ambulance, and we're debating right now about what color of ambulance to send. While the patient is dying on the side of the highway. Listen to some of these stories just today that I've had from the people of Montana. There was a 60-year-old woman. She provides cleaning services in Ravalli County. That's south of Missoula. It's in the Bitterroot, beautiful part of our state. She said normal business is almost down to nothing because folks are scared to let her clean their homes and businesses because of the coronavirus. To make ends meet, she said she's even willing to do outside yard work during these times. She's worried about becoming homeless and needs immediate relief. This is a real story that came from a Montanan today. I posted a video, Senator Graham, about her plight and a couple others I'm going to share with you tonight. Here's a warming part of this story. We had Montanans hear about her situation, and they said, we're going to band together here and help her. We're going to hire her and try to make sure she doesn't become homeless, which is her current concern. Listen, we were told we were at the 1-yard line last night to get this done. All I got to say is the Senate may think it's at the 1-yard line right now, but Montanans are getting sacked. In fact, our unemployment claims in Montana, since March 17th, we just looked it up 15 minutes ago, 14,350 Montanans have filed for unemployment in the last week. There was a gentleman from Kalispell, another story here. He said his business has been hit hard because of the coronavirus. He wrote, and I quote, help, both for the businesses to remain afloat and our team members that are being laid off or having reductions in work hours. He's worried about his employees. Emergency personnel in Missoula, Montana, they let us know that ambulance drivers, EMTs, must travel longer distances because the volunteer fire departments don't have enough equipment or staff. They can't get enough personal protective equipment. That's in this bill, Senator Graham. Immediate billions of dollars right now to get more PPE to the front lines. And he said this, many are working while spouses have lost their jobs and they're wondering if they'll be able to pay their bills if there's no relief soon, and their family members who've lost their jobs for the community. They need relief now. I just got this letter. This came in this evening. In fact, it's stamped 7:50 p.m. Dear Senator Daines, I am the general manager of Fairmont Hot Springs. He gave us permission to use his name, located just outside Anaconda, Montana. I'm not going to read you the description of the plight that he's in, but here's the bottom line. I just processed 146 layoff notices, or 85% of our staff. This is this evening. It's breaking the hearts of these employers to lay their people off. It's breaking the hearts of these employees who are losing their jobs while the Senate is sitting here fiddling at the moment. We have got to come together and pass this bill tonight. Senator Graham.
I would like to ask a question. I don't know how many employees the gentleman has, but do you agree with me that if you have 500 or less employees, you're a small business, under this bill, instead of laying off your employees, you can go to a bank or credit union and get an SBA loan that will eventually become a grant to pay your employees up to $80,000 per employee. You can also pay the rent that's coming due. Do you agree that that's in this bill?
Senator Graham, that is in this bill. For these small businesses, help is on its way. But we can't send the help, Senator Graham, until we pass the bill. But the good news for the general manager of Fairmont Hot Springs is that if we pass this bill, he'll have the ability, as you just said, it's not a loan, it'll be a grant that's forgiven. In other words, he won't have to pay it back as long as he keeps the payroll paid, the rent paid, the mortgage paid. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
And hire back the people.
He wouldn't have to lay them off today. In fact, he just continues to write. He says they just canceled conferences total $848,000 in the last week. This is a big deal in Montana. In fact, another small business owner in Montana wrote this. And by the way, they let us know that two other of our well-known kind of resorts, Grouse Mountain Resort up in Whitefish, as well as Chico Hot Springs. In fact, Senator Graham, Chico Hot Springs is where in 1979, that's where we had our homecoming dance dinner
Well,
at Bozeman Senior High School.
Everybody knows that. You don't need to tell us stuff we already know.
But listen, they're in trouble. They're temporarily closed. In fact, today they just closed Yellowstone National Park and Glacier National Park. In fact, this business owner said that they're looking currently at additional layoffs. They're looking at cash flows of nearly zero. Okay, so we're hearing about the plight right now of Montanans losing their jobs, losing their businesses. 14,000 plus Montanans have filed unemployment claims. And what's the Senate doing tonight, Senator Graham? Look around this chamber. There's nobody here. It's me and you.
Well, if the senator would yield for a second, all the people negotiating are my friends. I've been in tough negotiations. It's hard to get to yes, but we've never faced a problem like this since World War II and 9/11. This is not any time. This is not any bill. This is not just another legislative endeavor. This is life, it's death, it's the difference between bankruptcy and having economic hope. It's the difference between having supplies you need to save lives and not getting it. So to my colleagues who are doing the negotiation, stop. It's over. Write the bill, let's vote. Every time I hear it's close, that means we're just a couple of $100 billion away. And the reason I'm so agitated is not to try to be cheap. The bill is $2 trillion. Is that I've been called, like Senator Daines, in the last few hours, wanting more money for this and that. And all of them may be very worthy projects. But we need to stop negotiating at this very moment, write the bill, and vote tonight, no later than tomorrow. And Senator Daines, I'm going to make a proposition to you. If we cannot do that as the United States Senate, don't you agree with me that we should stop getting paid? Now, legally, maybe we can't stop our salary because it takes a future Congress to do that, but we can all voluntarily give up our money. And I have a hard time with keep getting paid when we can't solve the problem. We've been doing this for days now, and enough is enough. Senator Daines, do you believe it is time for there to be consequences to the body for failing to deliver for the American people?
Senator Graham, I support the idea that if we don't get something done here, that members of Congress shouldn't be paid. And again, there's constitutional issues, but we can get around that by just saying we'll donate our paycheck to, how about some important COVID-19 relief effort that's going on? We'll find something. But here's what we get. At least here in the Senate tonight, we have a choice whether or not we want to donate our paycheck or not. There are 14,700 Montanans who don't have that choice. They lost their paycheck in the last 7 days. And I'm usually a guy that stays pretty calm, cool, and collected.
Yes.
This is a moment, Lindsey, you can probably testify to that.
Yes, I can.
This is a moment where I'm just bringing the frustration that I hear in the voices, the fear in the voices of Montanans who are saying, what in the world is going on back in Washington, D.C.? We have a package. As you can see what happened today in the markets around the world, there was optimism. Why? Because we have something here that's going to be, first they called it a stimulus, then they called it a recovery package. I think this is called a rescue package. We're into a rescue right now here to rescue this economy, to rescue these jobs, these small business owners. We could spend the next 30 to 40 minutes going through in detail all the things that are in this bill that are going to help working people in this country and small businesses. But in the meantime, Senator Graham, I agree with you. If we can't get this passed, every member of Congress should start donating their pay to a charity that is currently on the front lines of dealing with the coronavirus and COVID-19.
Well, I think you're speaking, if I may, for most Montanans. I know you're speaking for South Carolinians. But let's go back to the 14,000 people in Montana who are on unemployment. I don't know what kind of spike that is. I've been to Montana, great place, a lot of land, not that many people, hardy folks, and they don't want to be unemployed. They want to be working. I know your people pretty well. They're probably pissed off they're laid off, but there's nothing we can do about it until we control this virus, and we will. But do you realize, Senator, that in this bill, every unemployed person in Montana will get $600 on top of the state unemployment benefit? And in South Carolina, the maximum benefit is $326. This bill will take it up $600. And don't you think that will matter to people in Montana?
It more than in doubles what they would otherwise receive from the state of Montana in unemployment benefit. And by the way, this unemployment insurance backstop that's part of this rescue package, that's not what Montanans are asking. They want their jobs.
Yes.
So their first choice is, would you please help me keep my job? Now, if for whatever reasons we can't do that, the unemployment insurance, the backstop, I'll tell you, Montanans, we don't want a handout, but it's there if they need it. Because this is really to help, it's a hand up as a bridge until we get this economy back on its regular course.
And if I may, we keep talking about being at war. Well, I've done 50-something trips to Afghanistan and Iraq. We're at war with a virus, not radical Islam. And we need to destroy this virus before it destroys our economy and kills thousands of Americans. Your legislation, your proposal of $10 billion to accelerate finding an antibody or vaccine is the ultimate nuclear weapon. And that's the best $10 billion in this entire package to kill the virus. But people in Montana, South Carolina, and South Dakota are out of work today because of containment policies. We've had to make a decision to stop the spread of the virus. Probably one of the most draconian decisions we've made since World War II, where we rationed goods and you couldn't have the lights on at night. So everybody says we're going to get through it. They're right, but I want you to know it won't be easy. It's going to take a while till we find the therapies and the vaccines to kill this virus. Until then, we need to act in Congress to get help to those who need it. To the people you've just described, the business owner and the unemployed person, there's a lot of help. You can call this bill whatever you would like, but the two senators here tonight with me are from out west. This is the cavalry coming over the hill. You're under attack. You're under siege. If we can pass this bill, the cavalry will be there for your business. It'll be there for your family. And the only way we're going to pass this bill, Senator Daines, is to stop negotiations and write the bill. Do you agree?
There's been plenty of time to negotiate, Senator Graham. There's been good faith negotiation on both sides. There's been shuttle diplomacy going on between both sides. There's been a lot of give and get. We're at a point now we need to vote. We should be voting tonight. And regarding that $10 billion that's in this bill, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about how do we get out of this war?
How do we kill it?
How do we win this war?
How do you kill the virus?
And when you step back and think about the basics at the moment, the panic, the fear the American people have that we see is translating in this economy will not stop until the pandemic stops. The pandemic won't stop until these great drugs start. So here's what we're thinking about, and I want to give a reason for great hope and optimism around how we're going to get over this great hurdle that we face in our nation today. We have some amazing vaccines in development as we speak. In fact, they started a trial in Seattle a week ago Monday. They vaccinated 45 adults aged 18 to 55. They're getting initial results. They'll be looking at the safety as well as the efficacy. How well does it work over the course of several weeks? We have some other amazing miracle drugs. They're called monoclonal antibodies. That's the technical term for them. And what those do is when you take that drug, it provides protection against the coronavirus so you don't even get the COVID-19 disease. Here's the challenge, Senator Graham, is that we've got to be operating in parallel paths right now to make sure that we get those drugs available to the American people in a widespread fashion before the next flu season hits this fall. We're seeing reports right now from Singapore, Hong Kong, there's some reinfections going on. That should put us on notice that assuming our containment strategy works and that we bend this curve as we've talked, so we look more like South Korea than Italy. We pray and hope for that, and we're working to that end. The challenge will be we will not have enough immunity in our society coming up this fall. That leaves us vulnerable for a second wave of this virus. The solution, the way we win this war, is to start manufacturing some of these drugs earlier in parallel with the testing that's going on so that by the time the fall hits, we have it available for the American people. That's in this bill. And listen, every hour that goes by that we don't pass this bill is an hour lost in this fight. And as we see what's going on, if you look at the World Health Organization numbers, we're calculating on a daily basis, sometimes hourly basis. Every hour matters right now. Every day matters. And we've lost now this week. It's been incredible. It's 2 days. Lindsey, it's Wednesday tomorrow. It's time to vote. This chamber's empty. Senator Graham, let's get this chamber full of senators and let's have an up or down vote. Let's get it done.
We'll end where we began. The reason I'm here with Senator Daines is because I've been getting phone calls in the last several hours about wanting to add more money. And it's not that it's a bad idea as much as it is we need to get this bill done. It won't be the last time we get to address this problem. It rattles me to no end to know that people are still asking for billions of dollars at 8:30 at night or 8 o'clock at night. That tells me that we haven't sent the right signal that this is a good bill. It's time to write it. It's time to vote on it. It's time to end the negotiations. Mr. President, you've done a very good job today. That news conference with you and Dr. Fauci was the most encouraging I have seen. You're going to listen to good science. We're going to turn on the economy in a smart way, conditions-based. You've encouraged Congress. You were very nice to the Congress. The reason we're here tonight is that we're both upset that people are still talking about adding to the bill 48 hours after we were on the 5-yard line. So we may be on the 1-yard line, but apparently there are 20 people on defense. And we need to get the ball in the end zone. And I'm just begging my colleagues who have worked very hard. I'm not being critical as much as I'm being insistent that enough is enough. You have done a good job for the Democratic causes. We have done a good job for Republican causes. The cause is the country. If you're out of work, we're going to keep you on the payroll so you don't have to go on unemployment if your employer decides to go that route. If you're on unemployment, we're going to give you $600 more so you can actually survive better than you would be without this bill. If you're a nurse and a doctor and you're running out of supplies, this bill has a tremendous supply chain in it. So our message is simple. No more negotiations. It is over. Let's vote.
Senator Graham, thank you, and we'll conclude here. This is a moment in our history as a nation, truly, when we've got to come together. The American people are asking us to come together. Senator Graham, I thought for certain we'd have a vote today. And here we are, approaching 8:30 p.m., no sign of a vote. We're going to lose another day. While the unemployment claims are rising, people are getting sicker. There's help on the way with this historic package. It is time to forget who's a Republican and who's a Democrat. The question is, these are 100 Americans serving the U.S. Senate. It's time to rise above the current fracas and vote.
One last thing. Who's the gentleman that's thinking about laying people off the gentleman from Montana, that business?
Steve Lubeck.
Mr. Lubeck, I've never met you. Maybe one day I will. I enjoyed my visits to Montana. Give us 24 more hours. I'm hoping and praying that we can write the bill in the negotiations right now, write the bill, and vote on this thing, House and Senate, put it on the president's desk in the next 24 hours. Sir, if we can't, we have let you down and everybody else in the country like you. To my governor in South Carolina, you had to institute some very strong containment policies so we don't become New York. People in my state, there's 1,700 restaurants in Myrtle Beach, restaurants and bars. We're going into Easter in a few weeks, and that's when the season begins. Our Canadian friends would be coming down any day now. They want to go swimming in March. We're glad to have them. We don't like swimming in March because it's too cold for us, but the Canadians like it. It's a win-win. They're not coming. And those 1,700 restaurants and bars in this bill, if we pass it, you can go to a credit union or a bank. You can borrow money to pay your employees up to $80,000. You can borrow money to pay the rent, pay yourself as the owner, and we'll forgive it and make it a grant for 6 or 8 weeks. That would change everybody's life all over South Carolina. And it is time to change people's lives. It is time to stop negotiating. It is time to vote. I ask unanimous consent the Senate recess until 9:30.
Without objection.